So let's talk about this. So can you minimize that for me?
Yes. And make sure you press.
That's all right. Let's go back one slide there. There we go. We're going to talk about performance, investments, and outcomes. So this is the economic model of the business planning clinic. And I'm sure Wayne Jenner has taught this before. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if I mess up anything, you'll just correct me out loud.
I'm sure.
That'll be great. So anyway, so we're going to talk about performance. Performance shows up in your behavior, your skill level, your abilities. Each of us has unique abilities. And then your resources, your leads, your appointments, your talent, your systems, your tools. That's what, don't trip, Jazzy. She's a nice lady, I promise you. But those are the performances. Then we look over there at the investments and we look at time, cost of sale, and operating expenses. So time, when you're a newer agent or frankly, based on personal experience, if you're selling less than 24 houses a year, you have plenty of time. If you're really good at your time management, you have plenty of time to invest, but you also have your cost of sale and operating expenses. I'm not going to go into the budget model right now, but we are going to talk about that different. And then the outcomes are your gross commission, your income, and your gross commission income and your net income. Does that make sense? All right. So what do we actually control? Do we have more control over outcomes or the activities that lead to the outcomes? Activities, right? So we want to know what the activities are for us to make the income that we want to make. Next slide, if you don't mind. So we're going to talk about the elements of the economic model. The 30, 30, 40. If you don't do anything else, write down 30, 30, 40. This is a great guideline. Your gross commission income, your GCI, we also call that your fees now, your gross fees that you've earned, okay? What we should be looking at is dividing those up 30% towards operating expenses, 30% towards cost of sale, and 40% towards net income. Now let's have a conversation about this before we move on. This class is geared to showing you how to make and keep $1 million a year. How many people would like to make $1 million a year? It's okay, raise your hand if it's true. All right, fantastic. So below $1 million a year, your cost of sale, your operating expenses can probably be a lot less. If we go into the budget model, which we will do, next week's team meeting, we'll go into the budget model where your operating expenses can be much less as a single agent. And so your net income could be as much as 50, 60, 70%. A single agent who's really being efficient with their time is keeping somewhere around 70% of their net income. We'll talk about that more next week. Teaser to be here next week. All right, so let's go. And so what we're going to talk about is the cash flow of the economic model. Again, we're going to talk big models, big systems today. If you're not there in your thinking yet, it's okay. This is going to be one of those wine skins that gets new wine poured in it that's going to begin to stretch your mind. I remember the first time I sat in the economic model was 2006, and they were talking about making $1 million. Are you serious? Chris Linquist could never make $1 million. What I thought at the time. So if you're there, get it? I promise you I get it. And I promise you there are many real estate agents now doing this around Kansas City. All right. So in order to make the cash flow goes, you bring in your total GCI, your gross commission income and fees. You're going to need to make around $2.4 million. $2.4 million. If we have a balanced business, half of that will come from buyers, half of that will come from sellers. Makes sense, right? For every buyer, there's a seller, there's a buyer. If you know that you work with more sellers than buyers, then we're going to be able to make those adjustments in a little bit as we go through the math for you. An expense, right. A referral fee to a lead generation company because you're not lead generating. Cost of sale or expense? Could be both. Some of you are paying like a base fee and a referral, right? So it just depends. You'll have to figure that out. That's all right. We'll wait. Now she's under pressure.
Yeah.
You're doing fine. That's all right. There you go. Thank you. The fun of technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the way, anybody watch the Chiefs game last night? So I'm getting ready to watch the Jayhawk game and the Chiefs game. Do you remember, like, if you're over a certain age, you could just have a television and turn it on and you could flip back and forth between games and it would be fine? No. I bought a web-based TV. Trust me, there's going to be a point to all this. I bought a web-based TV, which I didn't realize I was buying a web-based TV, which decides when I turn it on to get all these things ready, it wants to update everything. I didn't ask it to update everything. And then it says I have to change my password because I had my old password. So I didn't want to change my password. And then because I did all of that, I had to change all my app. I had to go back and re-log in on all my apps. And then the games I wanted to watch, one was on the ESPN app and one was on the YouTube TV. Any of you feel like some angst this year with all of the changes and the elections and the interest rates and all that kind of stuff? You're not alone. It's everywhere. It's everything. This is, I'm hoping, will give you a sense of calm. But when we're talking about cost of sale, listings cost of sale would be about $100,000 and buyer cost of sales would be about $600,000. Anybody have any ahas right away?
Why? Yes.
Why are buyer's agents so much more expensive? Exactly. I have talked to dozens and dozens and dozens of high-performing teams, and the listing agents literally get the lead from their rainmakers, go out to the listings, spend about an hour there, come back, do about an hour's worth of paperwork, pick up the next appointment and go do that listing appointment. They literally are working 2 to 4 hours on any given deal. So that's going to cost a lot less than the buyer's agent who's doing the buyer consult, which takes about an hour, and then it takes about another hour to find the first batch of homes, then it takes about 2 hours to go out and show them, then it takes another hour to, you see where I'm going with this? Buyer's agent, Gary has said over and over and over again, you can work with about 15 to 17 sellers the time it takes you to work with 3 to 5 to 6 buyers, right? So your buyer's agents are always, like, if you're a rainmaker or planning on being a rainmaker, you want to build a balanced business, but keep in mind your listings cost of sale and your buyer cost of sale are completely different. And you would be shocked at how many profit and losses I've looked at from rainmakers that they're actually subsidizing their buyer's agents. That's not a fun way to go. And then we're talking about the total cost of sales would be about $700,000. Your operating expenses would be about $700,000, 30, and the 40 that's left over is $1 million net income. All right. Now, some of you are going, Chris, I can see $1 million, and some of you are going, Chris, I don't see $1 million yet. Okay. The most common thing that people tell me is $100,000. I need to make $100,000. I want to make $100,000. Well, here's just a math cheat code for you. I guess for your old people, I learned what cheat code was. I didn't actually know what it was until my kids explained it to me. But if $1 million has 6 zeros behind it and 100,000 has 5 zeros behind it, you can actually cut off the zero on all of these different things. And we can talk about that as time goes on. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Any thoughts about this before we move on? Questions, comments? All right, cool. In order to have really solid numbers that we can use, garbage in, garbage out, we have to have good information in, good information out. Does that make sense? Everybody agree with that? So we're all going to go out and we're going to do this. We're get lead generation, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Kristen's lead generation lab from last week, it's on YouTube TV or on our YouTube channel. Just search hashtag KW Olathe. Make that a point of emphasis to go back and watch. And then I think Wayne Janner did a great one. It's on there as well from about 2 or 3 months ago. That's on there. Go back. That's for lead generation. And we're going to do the lead generation model next Tuesday morning before team meeting for Lead Gen Labs. But what we're looking for on listing appointments is to have about a 75% conversion ratio on your listing appointments. 75%. Which means if you go on 10 listings appointments, you're going to end up with 7.5 listings. Does that make sense? How many of you think that your conversion ratio is way above 75%? Any takers? Couple hands? Okay, that's good. That's great. You can adjust this number to whatever you think it is when we start going through the math. Here's what I'm going to challenge you, anybody with. If you're above 75%, I'm going to challenge you that you might be staying in your safe zone. And if you become a referral only agent, that's a very good thing. And if you're living your best life right now, whatever your income is, that's a very good thing. If you're wanting to go forward, you're probably going to have to get outside your safe zone. And when you get outside your safe zone and your closed referrals and your closed sphere of influence, you're probably going to see that percentage drop a little bit, but that's okay. Would you rather have 90% of 10 or 75% of 20? You know, we're talking about to the people that really want to go this year. You know what I mean, go. So 75% of your listing appointments should turn into listings, and then 70% of those should sell. Talk about that for a second. In the last 4 or 5 years, what percentage of your listings actually sold? 100%. 100%? 90%? 95%? Is that because of your super duper marketing plan, or is it because the market was really helping us out?
Both, but mostly the market.
Mostly the market? Okay. Some of us are like, no, it's my super duper marketing plan. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. How many have noticed there's a lot more houses on the market right now? Days on market creeping up? Buyers being a little bit more choosy? If I'm going to spend that kind of money at that kind of interest rate, that I'm going to, all right. You might start seeing this. Good. If you say, Chris, my conversion rate's 95% and my sale rate is about 95%, you can base your future numbers on that. Can I please just encourage you to kind of work with this? Would it be okay if you made more money than you were planning on? I think most people would say yes. So you might consider this. If you really want to say, hey, Chris, I'm convinced I should be at 85% here and 80% there, then do it. You get to decide. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to give you like best practices. All right. So that's the way the money will flow on that side. And over here, 70% of your buyer's agents or your buyer agency consults will convert into a signed contract. And 70% of buyer listings you'll actually get to closing. Where do these numbers come from, guys?
History.
History? Specifically, Susanna, the history that you're referring to is Gary meets with his top 100 agents across the company every month. And a lot of times they fly down to Austin, Texas. He's meeting with the top 100 agents every month. And this is what the numbers are showing. And that's why these numbers are real. Because these guys are generating a lot of leads, and so they're not always in their safe zone. All right. Can we jump to the next slide if you don't mind? All right. So let's scroll that down there, okay? We're not going to fill this in yet. We're going to go back and do this. But here's what I want you to understand. Your net income is going to be 40%. Remember 30, 30, 40? So in this numbers, the net income you're going to write down when we get to start doing this, it's the net number you're going to keep, okay? So earlier we said $1 million, but whatever your number it is, here's where I want to challenge you real quick. If you didn't have time to really spend time with your pre-work, I want you to really think about the number that you want to have in your checking account in 2025. 2025, because when does 2025 actually start? You know, about 2 weeks from now, maybe 4 in the right buyer and whatnot. Okay, how do we come up with what the net income we want to be is? figure how much you need to live, right? Yeah, so I'm always, by the way, this is the standard answer I get when I teach this class about 5 times a year. Don't pull the number, this is from my heart. Don't pull the number out of the air. Do some research in the way you live. We have just finished the 10th month of the year. Go back and look at your bank statements, not your business statements, but your personal life. Go back and pull the expenses from the first 10 months of this year. Add all of that up after you get done throwing up, divide it by 10, that's your monthly expenses. So at the bare minimum, you're gonna want that plus inflation, which let's just say is gonna be 3.5%. And before you write that number down, let me ask you this. What decisions did you make this year based on money that you would have made differently if you didn't have to base your decisions on money? What vacation did you not go on? Well, we're going to Colorado again. I like Colorado. I'm going there next June. But I don't want to go there every year because I have to. That's the only thing I can afford. If you didn't go on that $10,000 or $15,000 vacation based on money, maybe you add that to all of your expenses plus inflation. What about college? Well, I got a 16-year-old. Okay, well, what's college going to cost you next year? Oh, about $25,000. Okay, maybe you need to add that. What expenses do you actually have? And by the way, when I get one-on-one with people and they are very transparent with me and they say, okay, here's my expense for the 10 years. What's the next thing out of almost everybody's mouth, including mine until I learned it didn't matter. What's the next thing they say? But you don't understand, I had this unusual expense. That's not normally the case. Has anybody ever had a year where they had an unusual expense? Like every year of their life? Right? So don't play games. If you're lying to yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. Be excruciatingly honest with yourself. And your bank statements will tell you exactly how much you're spending. You might say, well, what about my credit card statements? Well, hopefully your bank statements reflect you're paying it off. If you're not, then you need to add that in. Right? But get really clear on this number, because then what we're going to do is we're going to take that number and we're going to figure out what that is 40% of. Right? So everybody get your phone calculator out real quick. We're just going to do an exercise real fast here, you guys. If this number is going to be $1 million, what is $1 million divided by 0.4? Divided by 0.4, 40%. Is it $2,500,000? Okay. So 40%, this is what we want in our checking account, $1 million, means we would have to make $2.5 million in GCI or fees. Everybody follow that? Now let's just pause for a second, go back, clear your calculator. And let's do that. Let's do the number that you think you want to make. Remember, these things that you got on your table, where are they? Well, the economic model. I put the economic models on your table. We can get you 100 of these, okay? So use this as a working model right now that you can go back at, and you can do this again at home tonight or tomorrow, whatever. You can bring it in and share it. So, but put your number in that top line in the calculator. Let's just say 200,000 is your number. Divided by 0.40, and what do you come up with? That's how much money you need to make $200,000. Questions about that? Anybody fuzzy on the math? Because you're not the only one.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, Tony?
The number is divided by 2.4.
No, thank you. So let's just say somebody in here has to say, I want in my checking account so that I can pay for my taxes, so that I can pay for my royalty, my cap, all that kind of stuff. I want to keep $300,000. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that by 0.04. I'm sorry, 0.40. Lost my mind. Sorry about that. 40%. 0.40 is 40%. So what is
750.
750,000, okay? So I would have to earn in commissions and fees, $750,000. And then what is 30% of 750,000?
225.
Okay, so 225 would be for expenses. And 225 would be for cost of sale. And that's how I get to $300,000. Clear as mud?
You say the royalties and everything in the 300,000, I thought all of that was after. Like,
Well, that number right there, let's say you wanted it to count at that. So these are great questions, guys. Like this, take today to get clear. $300,000. The first thing I'm probably gonna do is take away $35,000 or 35% for taxes. So what is 300 times 0.65? Sorry?
195.
195? Okay. So after taxes, I'm only gonna have 195 of that 300. Then I'm gonna say, okay, cap, royalty, everything else is gonna be another 25,000. So really, to answer your question, Stephanie, which is a great question, what you said is I really wanna have $170,000 to live on.
okay, because I
But
thought.
I just made a mistake there, didn't I?
That cap's pre-tax.
Yeah. Well, so, but the other thing is the royalty is actually inside of cost of sale,
That's,
right? So, sorry. So it'd be 195 is where you'd be ending up.
we're trying to keep 300,000. We
Okay,
don't.
you're trying to keep 300,000, and what I would have to do is add 35% to that, which would be 35, would be 105,000. So the number I would write there would be $405,000. See, I've only taught this like 150 times or something like that, and I still made a mistake. It takes time to play with this and go back and double check your math. But does that make sense, Tony? Okay. So come up with a number you want in your checking account, but I was also saying that you got to add your taxes on that. Right? You got to pay your taxes. We don't need Tricia having the sheriff's department come by one more time with a garnishment of wages, which if you don't pay your taxes, guess what happens? Okay? I know this personally. I've seen 2 of those letters with my name on it way back in the day.
So, Chris,
Yes,
psychology of this is to take a goal and translate it into a daily activity.
yes, we're gonna do that.
Is that?
Yes, that's where we're headed.
Is that the meta?
Yeah. So right now, we're getting clear on how much money we want to make. Everybody got a number in their head now? So this is going back to figuring out what's your number and then add the taxes on top of that. So in this case, you could reverse engineer this. You could say, this person said, I need to make 195,000. Which would, that's how I would get to 300,000. Whatever your number is, it is. By the way, if you make 195,000 in Kansas, what percentage of income are you in the state of Kansas? I think 220 or so is you're in the top 5%. So 195 would be a really great number. So that's all we're gonna do is get down to how many. So then we're gonna divide that by our average commission or fee. So if we need to, in this particular case, if 750,000 is the number that we need to get to 300,000. If 750,000 is the number we need to get to 300,000 and our average commission or fee is $10,000, how many houses would we have to sell? What's 750,000 divided by 10,000?
75.
75. We would have to sell 75 houses. 75 houses. Hey, Hannah. Now, how many people 75 houses is a big number? Sure it is. And we can talk about all that. All right? There's some leverage that we can start pulling as we go along through there. But 75 houses, where did I come up with the 10,000, by the way?
Average commission of 350, which is your average price.
Yeah. That's actually just shy of 3%. So you could use 3%, or you could use 4% if you're charging 4%, or you can use 9%, or you can use 1%. And but 1% is going to be a lower number, which is going to mean more houses. Is everybody having fun yet?
Is this the same as in the goals and command?
Yes.
Yes. It's the exact same process. This is helping you to understand how to get to the process. All right. Then what we're going to do is after we get to this, we're going to pour down through here. So here's what I'm going to ask everybody to do right now. Take your worksheet. Wayne, could you help me with this? Can you walk around and just help people check their math?
We need more worksheets.
No, I think we got some. There's some on that back table as well. If there's anybody needs some. So take the worksheet that you have, and if you're online and don't have a worksheet, they were emailed out to you, or you can just write net income 40%, operating expense 30, cost of sale 30, total GCI average, and then units sold. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Whatever your number is that you are going to make in 2025, write that in on the top line. And then you're going to take that number. Now you can go back and change this. You can go home and talk to your wife tonight. Like Wayne put too much low of a number last year, and Jean yelled at me, didn't she? No, I'm just kidding. So you could put your number in there. This can be changed, but I want you to work through this now. And then divide that by 40 and put it under total units sold. Wayne and I are going to walk around just to help you make sure you feel like you got your math right.
We're including taxes in that top number.
You can include it or not include it. It's completely up to you. If you don't mind making 300 and then paying taxes out of that like you would a job, then you would just write 300. If you want to account for the 300, if you want to account for taxes, then you would write 405. If you say $100,000 and you want to account for taxes, then you're going to write 135 instead of 100. Okay. Whatever number you write, we're then going to divide that by 0.40 and put it under your total GCI. Okay. So everybody do that real quick. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Divide that by 0.4.
Well, I guess we're not going to divide it over.
There you go. There you go. That's
And is it me or is it both?
yeah. So divided by 0.4 equals. That's right. I did it. Good job. Yep. Papers. Yes, we do. Over there on that. There. If you just want your work checked, or you want to ask a question or whatever, just raise your hand. We're just going to do this for another 60 seconds or so. Yes.
I put it up there, when we took the original, I'm based on, you make this 150.
Is that before or after?
No, it's after. Okay, so I think divided by.
Actually, so it's after taxes. It's 150 times 1.35, but that times 1.35, you're at 30,000. That's what you would need to make to have 150.
It's the 30%. Here.
So here's what you do. Write down that number. Guys, it's okay to take time to get this right. This isn't work. That's the number that the top line. Divide that by 0.40. Okay. So it's okay. Well, so taxes. So that is which one? They're taking it does was actually.
Yeah, that's right. It's the same one.
That makes sense. So guys, this is a question coming up, and I see exactly how it's happening, and it happens quite a bit. Well, I'm glad all of you are doing this, because this is how we're learning to be business owners, right? We're learning to be business owners. So if let's just say your number is 100,000 that you want in your checking account after taxes. We're gonna multiply that times 1.35, and we're gonna end up with 135,000. Right? We end up with 135,000. Now, we want to divide that by 0.4. What's 135,000 divided by 0.4? 337,500. That's the total GCI we want to make. So when we're doing the 30 and the 30, we're not dividing this number by 30. We're taking 30% of this number, of the total number. So what's 30% of 337,500?
101,250.
101,250, and then 101,250. If you take 101,250 plus 101,250 plus 135, you're going to end up with 337,500. See it? But get it? So that's how we get there. If you did nothing else from this class and got this part right and said my average commission is going to be $10,000, what's 337,500 divided by $10,000? Yeah, sell 34 homes. That's all you could stop listening right now. You could just throw up your hands and walk out of the room. I'm just going to sell 34 homes. Right? And then the rest of it will work itself out. I'm so happy you guys are here learning this because you're taking a step towards being a business owner. If you're on a team and you say, well, I'm on a team and my split is this, well, then it doesn't change the fact that you should know what your average earning is per unit. So
Same math, just different numbers.
same math, just different numbers, right? So you've got 34 houses to sell to make this, that's it. Now we're going to go into how you should convert with your percentages to create those daily steps that Luke was asking about. Because when we're done with this in like another 20 minutes, you're actually going to say, okay, to do this, I need to do this many appointments per month. Right? Carrie, is your head hurting? That's all right. Sell more houses. Just sell more houses. Okay. If this is what you want to make, all you got to do is sell 34 houses. Okay.
Okay, Chris, real quick, not to complicate this.
No,
This
go ahead,
is
Stephanie.
great,
This is great.
but if, once you cap, could that take that total units down or like to get to?
No, because we're counting for that in the 30%.
Okay.
Cost of sales. But remember when I said as a single agent, it's actually probably not 30%.
Operating expenses will go down, but your cost of sales is stay the same.
Even your cost of sales will go down as well. Because if you're selling 34 units, quite frankly, guys, if you want to see how this would really work out in real life, would probably be a 25, 20, it's in the budget model. Come next week on the budget model, you can see how things would be different. Let me just give you a glance. Actually, go back to the,
Back rates.
you just go back to where you can go to the main menu, just hit escape, I think. So scroll up. Keep going, keep going, keep going, right here. Pull this one up. So guys, on the budget model, we actually have, if you want to make 150 in GCI, which is probably keeping around 105, this is how your expenses should look. This is how they should look at 340. This is how they should look at 640. This has been recently updated again. So we know these percentages are pretty true. The percentages are true. You can find it on command under Connect. You can find it by looking up current budget model or just look up budget model and you'll find it in there. You can look up this class, Business Planning Clinic.
Savannah sent it out, I think.
Yeah, we can have Savannah send that out. I think it's actually in the short workbook.
It is.
Yeah.
There you go. It's in the short workbook. Okay. So if we go back to where we were though, that would be
Yeah.
great. So that's a great question. And yet we're talking about making $1 million today. So I want everybody to just sort of follow the math on here. So if we're making $1 million, we take $1 million, divide it by 4, we have come up with 2.5. Then 30% of that is 750. So let's go down here to, we would have to sell 350 units based on a $7,150 average fee. So you guys don't even have to do that because our average fee in Olathe is closer to $10,000. Whereas up in Iowa and up in some areas, it's closer to the $8,000 or the $7,000 number. So just by living in Johnson County, you can make more money. Isn't this a great country? All right, so go down here now. If sell side is 50%, we're going to have to sell 175 of these 350 at a 70% conversion rate. We're going to need 250 listing appointments to get 175 listings. Follow me? And then 75% of those closing would be 333. Can you get this out of the way real fast? Okay. And then over here on buyers, 50% of buyers listings go through. You're going to need a total of 357 buyer appointments needed. Now, remember, we're talking about making $1 million here. Okay. And then go ahead and go forward for me. That means you would need 7 a week seller appointments and 8 a week buyer side appointments. Any comments on that?
Well, yeah, just because I get a little anal on the numbers.
Okay.
So Jackie, let me ask you, so do you think you'll have the same number of listing appointments in December that you will in June? No. No, I mean, we do have I think we have a seasonal business. So when I do my numbers, I'll look at what my total numbers is as far as appointments, whatever, and then I'll put it out on a bell curve. Because that's approximately the way our seasonal runs. So you have, January over here, December over here. So I'll stagger it so I can stagger my appointments for what they're going to be with the height of the year coming up and doing it that way. So it's kind of an extra step and you're guessing, but it becomes a little more realistic, I think, as far as what is actually going to take place, as far as number of appointments to get you to where you want to be.
And when and he brings up a great point, a fantastic point. I did the same thing. Like if I needed to close 24, I would predict I would close 1 in January, 1 in February, 2 in March,
Yeah, whatever your
2
number
in
is.
April, 3 in May, 3 in June. You see where I'm going with that? And so you can figure it out. I love this, and I think you need to know what the total number is so that you can start charting that.
That's where you start from, is what is that total? Then you break it down, and then you go through the process of how many appointments, et cetera, et cetera.
When did you get your real estate license? Yeah.
94.
94. How many times have you been through a clinic like this as far as planning what your year is going to look like?
Probably only the last 15.
Okay.
When I've been a county.
Okay.
Because it didn't occur before that. Nobody talked.
Exactly. And I got my license in 2002 and have been doing this for about 15 years as well, maybe 16 years. My point is if you're here for like the first time, you're going, This is a lot of years experience talking. It's not necessarily what you need to know by the time you leave here today.
Right. And it's so different. I mean, just because I am old, that, this kind of thing didn't exist before. This is a real treat. And in most companies today, this doesn't exist. So really soak it in, take it in, internalize it. Each year it'll get a little easier as you do it. Study. This is valuable information.
Thank you, Wayne. And I think it goes back to look at this wall over here, everybody. Our mission is to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. Where do you think this conversation fits into that mission? Businesses worth owning. So if you're still building your career worth having, that's okay. This is how you're going to learn what your business worth owning is as time goes on. Because wouldn't it be nice to be able to have a business that could run without you at some point? We're doing the work now. On how to
This
do that.
process is getting you from line 1 to line 2.
Exactly. So thank you for being brave. Stick with us because we're going to keep going through this. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so now we're going to work on your guys's. Remember, when you wrote down what your number was here,
It could be before taxes or after taxes. Well, now they're just doing the 500,000, okay? Keep going though. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So when you write down your number, it could be before taxes or after taxes, you'll know what that is. Okay? Then you're gonna divide that by 0.4. That's gonna be your total GCI. Whoops, that's gonna be your total GCI. Then you're gonna divide that total GCI number by 0.3, boom, boom. Then you're gonna put in your average commission. If you don't know what your average commission is, I would use the 10,000 number. My guess is it'll be slightly higher than that, but easy math. It's easy math. And then that'll tell you how many units you need to sell. So can we just let's do probably a common one in here. Because whether you're a rainmaker or a single agent, even the rainmakers produce, right? Until they're not producing more. Let's just say you want to make $225,000 because you want to be in the top 5% of incomes in Kansas. Well, not only that, you figured out that it costs about $225,000 to live the life you want to live. Life worth living. Okay. And I want that after taxes. So if you want to write this down, turn your sheet over and write this down as a model, you can. So it'd be after taxes. So I'm going to take that times 1.35. And I might be overshooting taxes a little bit because we're self-employed, but I'd rather be conservative than not. What is 225 times 1.35? $303,750, okay. First of all, that might be a big number for somebody. That's okay. Keep coming, keep reading. All right, so that's that. So we know that's the number. We're going to divide that by 0.40. And what's that number?
759. 375.
Sorry, 759? 375. Okay, that's how much money we would have to do to do that. If we were going to realistically look at this, I'm going to say that your profit margin based on the budget model is going to be really closer to 50%. So now we're talking about 606, 607, 500. Is that right? So what's 303, 750 divided by 50%?
607,500.
607, 500. Okay. If your average commission is $10,000, how many homes do you need to sell? 61 units. 61 units. Everybody follow that? My guess is it's actually a few shorter because of whatever, but how many homes should a single agent be able to sell by themselves without a transaction coordinator, without anything? 36. 36. We know that the average real estate transaction is about 50 hours. What's 36 times 50 hours? 1,800. The average worker in America works 52 weeks a year because they get paid for vacation. 52 weeks a year times 40 hours, how much is that? 2,080. So even a real estate agent should be able to do around 36. Once you hire a transaction coordinator or a full-time assistant, you should be able to do 72 homes. We're here with a full-time assistant. And that full-time assistant is already paid for in that 30%, or say 25%, 25%.
Even like if you're grossing $600,000 a year, you're paying an administrative person 10%. That's a $60,000 salary.
Yeah, and most admins are not being paid that much. Yeah. So there is listen, folks, that's the path to having $225,000 if that's about what you want to make. That's after taxes. What are your ahas from this today so far? Just sell more houses?
Generate more leads.
Generate more leads. Yeah, we talked about how many leads does it take? The lead generation model, we're gonna go into deep next week, deeper than we went into this week. So come out for that. But how many of you believe that if half of the crazy in this world can get tens of thousands of people to follow it, and you're really only looking for 36 people in all of Kansas City that believe in you? You have 2.5 million people that can think you're crazy. You just need 36 to believe. Thoughts on that, Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, each year.
Each year.
I bet Wayne knows 36 people.
But you also, run this based on where you think your business is gonna be. I mean, if you're gonna be working in Johnson County, you're probably gonna, exclusively, you're probably gonna be over 300. If you're doing the majority of your business, in the inner city, it's gonna look different, or, in Wyandotte County. Figure out what your market looks like and what you're targeting. And play around with these stuff. Plug some different numbers in. If you're doing a price point that's closer to 250, 225, you're looking at more use. Or if you're at 650, it all plays out. So, wherever you think is most likely you're gonna land. We're just using general numbers right here. Get specific with your business.
And by the way, if you're a really high capacity individual with a really high capacity calendar that you're very disciplined about, your expenses are going to drop. I've seen really successful, happy single agents be around 70% profitability. So if you think you're that person, you would take the 303,750 divided by 750. All of these numbers are going to drop precipitously. What is it we want you to take out of today? More than anything else, what is it we want you to take out of today?
The path is in the math.
The path is in the math. Even if you didn't understand everything today, what caused you to be here today, and what did you think about while you were here?
What would you on a monthly and weekly and daily basis to get where you want to be?
When's the last time you just sat and said, what are my expenses? What is the income I would choose? What decision did I make last year based on money that I don't want to have to make this year because I can just pay for it?
When's the last time you were at the 25th of the month and your goal was 15 appointments, you're only at 10? How is that gonna change your behavior?
Love that one. If we can get real serious about figuring out what we want, and then if you have a team or are thinking about building a team, here's what I would suggest. Set goals up, not down. Set goals up, not down. And hang on just a second, Tony. What I mean by that is find out from the people on your team or that would be on your team what they want, and then add that on top of what you're going to be doing. Unless you're going to go out and recruit some people, but I would have agent X will do this sort of situation. I would find that. Tony, you had a question?
Yes. What is your team?
A real estate team would be once you're doing all you can do, then you start hiring other people. So probably around that 28 to 30 mark, you start looking for who's going to join you as an assistant. And then probably somewhere around 60 to 70, you're starting to look at who's going to be your second assistant. And then if you do this all the way out, you should be somewhere around 108 units by the time it's just you, and then maybe you're bringing on a buyer's agent or a showing assistant along the way. Then the math can get really fun. And we don't have time for it today, but I can geek out on how much dollars per hour you're earning, and some of you have probably seen me do that. So, but it's a lot of fun. But if you're, by the way, if you're If you're working 50 hours on an average transaction, your pay is 10,000, how much is that per hour? $200 an hour? Everybody in this room was not being paid $200 an hour before they got their real estate license. Maybe if you are, maybe you were, but most of us haven't. Remember why you got your license. When you get confused by this, remember it. Remember when you're looking at your expenses, why you got your license. If you're making $200 an hour before you have any leverage. Once you have leverage, that skyrockets. All right. Here's my invitation to you. Megan can help you with this. This is my email. kwmapschris@gmail.com. If you send me yours, I'll look at it, do some double checking for you. I will ask you some questions around it. And none of this is to get you. This is to help you guys figure out what it is you want and how to go get it.